No, hang on. I had streaming, then I had a go live little button thing, and then I hit that, and now it says end broadcast. So hopefully it'll show up momentarily ish.
There was a bit of a delay when we tested it, so
There was, in fact. So I think we should account for that as well.
probably.
Um, all right. So, assuming that we're live. Wait a minute.
Here we are.
We're good?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. So, hello, Tim.
What's up? Something's never new.
Some things never end. Long time ago, we used to have a I see some chat stuff.
Yep, look at that.
All good people we know. I see my mom. Hi, mom. And I see Kara, who is our Discord admin. Not that we have one just yet officially, but it's getting
Yep,
worked on.
it's coming.
And we got a comment about the matching shirts.
Yep. We have to address that elephant.
Should we address it right away? Listen, we didn't buy these shirts for this live event.
No.
Wait, before we get into this, right? First things first, let's do a proper introduction.
Yes.
Hello, Tim.
What's up?
We are feeling very surreal right now as we sway in our chairs because Tim and I, many years ago, had a podcast which has now grown into this business. And now here we are again for the first time, recording ourselves talking into the wind and ether.
Yep.
And it feels like we're right back where we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
It feels like we never left.
Yeah. It's like riding a bike, I guess.
Yeah.
You know.
I wonder too for the people who have seen our trailer. I wonder the product trailer.
Yeah.
I wonder how interesting it'll be to see us just in our natural state
Right.
instead of like I'm curious to see like what elements of the characters because obviously, right, it's all based on some truth. And so I wonder like what elements shine through and which ones people are like, "Oh, that's not the dude that
So
made me
what you're
chuckle."
saying is you're curious of like how much of a jerk you really are in real life.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to see if people think I truly am the jerk that I portray. Um, okay, so back to
Well,
the shirts.
spoiler. I am not a wizard. So
I thought you were gonna be like, I'm not some like duncy idiot, but you were like, oh, that's true. But
oh
I'm
yeah,
not a wizard. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that part was slightly inaccurate.
yes,
The Car says we plead the fifth on that one.
yep,
I love that I am actually seeing it. So first time doing this whole setup thing, first live on launch day, and I am sleep deprived. It has been crazy, but here we are because we keep promises and we're
yeah,
all about this life. All right, let's address the shirts and then we can start just talking about some stuff. I know we got one question, maybe
yes,
1A and 1B, so we
yep,
will definitely address that. And then otherwise, I mean, we definitely have some stuff to chat about, but
absolutely,
we
yep,
can we just have a good time for a little bit and then keep
and then go
working.
and then go to the Kickstarter and buy our game.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. No. All right, so the shirts.
Yeah,
Okay, there's a show. I don't know if anyone has heard of it. It's called Taskmaster. Hashtag
yep.
shout out Taskmaster
Mm-hmm.
to the great Alex Horn and Greg Davies. So
Yep,
it's a show based in the UK, a panel show. They have comedians come on and do crazy, games and events and whatnot. And then Greg Davies judges them. And I mean, we say Davies here. I guess they say Davis,
yeah,
which
yeah, yeah,
who knows? I get it. We're different. Sames and opposites. Anyways, that's the whole bit of the show. We're obsessed with it. I think you and I are big fans of the show, like
yep,
huge fans.
yep,
My wife is properly obsessed, like
yes, yes,
to her soul.
yep,
It is Taskmaster, Taskmaster, Taskmaster.
yep,
And so for her 30-ish something birthday, was it like 3 years ago we did it?
yep. Sure, that feels right.
So about 3 years ago, for her 37th, then we threw a Taskmaster party, and I made a bunch of tasks. We did the whole thing, and Tim and I served as the Taskmaster. Greg Davies, hashtag Kiko, and little Alex Horn, hashtag little Timmy Helms,
Yeah,
and then we um, we did the party and did the whole thing, and we bought these shirts because the guys wear suits. We don't
yep.
even own suits, and so we bought these cheap T-shirts and wore them for the party. I've worn mine. You can see it has been washed many times
Yeah.
because I literally throw whatever free shirt I got from whatever on to go, pick up the kids and do
Yeah, I
whatnot.
mean, this might be the fanciest piece of clothing I still own. I mean, I barely go to the office, and when I do, I definitely don't wear like business clothes anymore. So
No, dude. And you're like, yours is crisp. It looks
yeah,
ironed.
I know, right?
So anyways, we were lit we were literally wondering, we're like, man, does it matter? Do we have to be careful what we wear? I mean, obviously for like, being on camera, you don't want to do checkers and things like that, but like, can we wear our normal clothes? I've got some, stuff that has nothing on it.
I mean, I literally own nothing but like licensed
Printed
and
graphic, yeah.
yeah, band t-shirts. So
Yep, that's you. So, anyways, it just felt right. It was
it
just
did.
like
It
we
did.
both have these shirts.
Yep.
Like it's a celebration. We
Yep.
should dress for the occasion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this feels this feels accurately dressed for the occasion.
It does. It does. It does.
Anyway, so that's the shirts. That's our matching shirts. And it just worked out. We're
Yeah.
not
It
that
just feels
weird,
right. And
but
obviously,
we also are.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't have worked out. Unfortunately, Joe couldn't make it. He does not have a shirt to match, so that
Yeah.
would have been a game time decision.
Now, whether or
But
not we invited Joe to this or not, so we could wear the shirts, that's a separate question no one has asked. And so, therefore,
yeah,
right, we'll
yep,
leave that for the
yep,
histories. But, yeah, totally correct. No
yeah.
Joe means dress up.
But yeah, so happy launch day.
Yeah, shut up, Frank. Let's move on.
Happy launch day. Happy Pride Month. Big celebrations all around. It just feels like a joyous kind of day. It's a beautiful Tuesday evening, so we're gonna roll with it. But you said, you mentioned questions, and so I think another question off the bat, and I'm surprised we haven't seen this anywhere, like across social media and whatnot. But um, what's our name, right? We picked this name, ArcaneOso RPG. I'm surprised no one has asked us about that. I mean, off the bat, we get a question about our wardrobe, but no one wants to know about the name of the company. I'll say last night I'm working on a project, a little arts and crafts project for the company, and my 5-year-old came downstairs and she's like, "Daddy, what's that?" And it's a uh, based on our logo, our little badge logo there with the bear and the name and everything. And I had to explain to her. I was like, "Well, it says Arcane Oso RPG," and she's like, "Yes, but why is there a bear?" And I was like, "It's a great question." So
Fair question.
yeah, yep. I had to break it down a little bit to kind of get a good sense of what it is. But yeah, no one's asked. So what? Let's throw it out there. Where did that come from?
Where did the name come from? Yeah, so first things first, how it's pronounced, ArcaneOso RPG. Um, So yeah, absolutely, and I agree with you 100%. I feel like we have gotten a lot of questions that we've been surprised by. I think number one, definitely like constant questions about whether or not our stuff is AI, etc. Although we
Whether
expected that a little bit,
whether it's a movie.
whether it's a movie or this or that, sure. Like, and hey, man, we live and we learn. He's it's the same like when we're DMing a game, right? Like, when I'm DMing, and just when I think I am being super obvious and on the nose, and then we run that session, and I'm like, how did they not get it? So. I used to be the mascot in college, and so I dressed up like a giant dog, and it was the same kind of principle. It's like, if you think we can understand what you're doing in that suit, then you need to go about 50% bigger for us
Yeah.
to even start to understand.
Yeah.
Um, so we've gotten all those. No one has asked about the name, which I guess does make sense, right? They're like, we don't care how you say it, just make cool books.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so how did we get the name? ArcaneOso RPG. We'll start with the Oso because it answers the question about the bear.
Yep.
So the reason our mascot is a bear, and I've got some up there, is for a couple of reasons. Number one, I feel like the bear is my spirit animal. I've That's been my nickname since college, I think, undergrad at least.
Yeah, that's tell me.
They used to call me Brown Bear, and then I've had a lot of nicknames, but that one stuck. And yeah, dude, I dig bears, man. They terrify me. I never want to actually like see one. I mean, I've seen black bears and stuff. We have
Yeah.
those here where we live,
Yeah.
but I'm talking about a real brown bear, like a
Yeah.
grizzly. Like I'm not into it.
Nope.
So, but they're pretty impressive. So that's kind of my spirit animal. It's how I relate. I'm Puerto Rican. Joe is actually also of Latino descent, and his family comes from half his family comes from Argentina.
Yep.
And so, um, it felt right to embrace the bear, which feels like me and being my company. I just wanted to kind of have that stamp. Um, but also honor it in a way that speaks to Joe and I who launched the company together.
Yeah.
So, and kind of speaking to that heritage. So we went with the Oso to Oso is Spanish for bear, and so that's where that comes from. So once we had the bear, how do we make sure people know that it's like a D&D,
Yeah.
TTRPG type company?
Yep.
So the obvious, it's got to end in RPG.
Yep.
Boom,
Yep.
stick that bad boy on there. So
Perfect.
technically, our company name is ArcaneOso LLC, but we have a DBA is ArcaneOso RPG
Yep.
for the obvious, and then Arcane. So that was the next part. Was all right. Something's got to go with Oso to make it feel more correct.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could do like Oso games and blah blah blah. I thought about all that, but
Yep.
the when I looked up Arcane, Arcane comes to mind first. It's the first thing that you think about. Arcana, blah blah blah. It feels magical, mystical.
Yep.
But gotta do your due diligence. I look it up, and sure, the definition is something magical in nature, unknown, and then like the second definition was something often misunderstood. And that really stuck out to me. It stuck out to me personally, right?
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
I am somebody who is rarely understood.
Yep.
Um, I take pride in that.
Yep.
But it also spoke to me even with the game itself, right? If we're writing TTRPG content and we're writing stuff for Dungeons and Dragons, how many times, right? Like you meet a ton of people who've heard about it. Everyone has heard about it. Everyone knows what it is.
Yep.
Many people haven't engaged with it for a multitude of reasons. And so here is this massive, like, genre defining in terms of just tabletop games, right? I mean, this is
Yep.
a huge market, and so many people know about it, but don't necessarily understand it. That felt true to me. I'm sure it felt true to Joe. I know it feels true to you. Like, and then for it to also apply to the market that we want to live in, and the games that we want to write just felt correct. And
Yeah.
so, Arcane Oso RPG, it has a nice flow, right? It feels nice coming off the tongue, but on top of that, it it looks right. ArcaneOso RPG feels like a tabletop publisher name,
It absolutely
and
does.
and when you translate it out, it's the misunderstood bear, and so that is me.
And
And
after like you break that down to 5-year-old language, and I essentially said it's like fancy word for magic bear, and she goes,
that's
"Oh,
the way.
okay," and she goes, because she insists that we're making a movie because we made our trailer and had a blast doing the trailer, and she thinks the trailer is the funniest thing in the world. She says,
She's not wrong. She's not
"No."
wrong.
She
Yeah.
goes, "Daddy, can I be the bear in your next movie?" And I said, "Sure,
So,
absolutely. We'll figure that out. There'll have to be a bear in the trailer for whatever we do next."
and I'm going to go a step further and say
Yeah.
that since we are doing this live and this is officially on the record, the when you told me that story, I said, tell your daughter it's a done deal.
Yeah.
I'm the owner. I say yes. And I
Yep.
said, but I want full body 6-year old
Yep.
giant bear head
Yeah.
just running through the background. Anyway,
I love it. I love it.
oh
But
buddy.
yeah, I mean, it
Oh, we've got some more people. Sorry,
we do.
buddy.
We
It
do.
just flashed up and it catches my eye.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
I
yeah.
see you, Kate.
Yep.
Kate's who sent us our question, and we will get to
Yeah, she's anxious and ready to hear about Daddy Hook. So
it. Has he been mentioned?
we will
I
get
guess
to
should
that.
should we just address it since she's here, or should we make the poor woman wait?
It's up to you. How do you feel? You want to tease it out a little bit?
Let's wait a second. What else
Yeah,
you got?
let's let's
I
let's
feel
talk
like
about
it
let's
slots in nicely when we start talking about some of the other books you have.
yeah. So that's a little bit. We'll get back more into the business thing. Like two parts here really, like, as and we'll kind of get into this. We launched the company with this game, so like a lot of things that we're promoting the company, getting that established while doing this game. So like Frank, especially Mikiko, sorry, wearing like 900 different hats. Sorry, I never refer to him as Kiko, so y'all just gonna have to bear with me on that.
Yep.
uh so so there's the business side of stuff, which we'll get back to, but specifically we're talking about launch day, so obviously we want to get into Nightmares in Neverland, not Nine Inch Nails as it's abbreviated sometimes like that.
Yeah.
But in our shorthand when we call it NIN. But I think it'd be interesting just to talk a little bit just about the concepts. I mean, you've put about 2 years of work into this, formulating all of this, and then when we sat down a year and a half ago, a year ago, to really start kind of talking what our story would want to be and what comes of this. I mean, we went through many iterations, so I think it'd be interesting to kind of talk about some of those. So,
Yeah.
where did this idea come from? The fairy tales and Peter Pan, and specifically how we ended up with Nightmares in Neverland.
Yeah, man. Whoa, that's a lot. Let me. Yeah, I can touch on all of that. Help me to make sure that I don't go too long. The
Yeah,
as you can see, I'm just like butterfly
yeah.
questions about Daddy Hook. Let's answer it now. And you're like, can you please take an
Let's just establish
ADHD
that
deep
when we
breath?
talk on the phone, it is like at least a 2 hour conversation, and eventually we get to the point of what we were calling each other about for the first place. So this is all
And that
past our
that
easy.
usually happens after we've hung up that 2 hour
Yeah,
conversation, and then I go, I forgot.
yeah,
Can you also grab some chicken? No. Yeah, man. No, that's a solid question. And yeah, I'll try to be as concise as I can. The idea and stuff, and dude, I'm super about this too, by the way. And I really want us to, on future lives, I want us to dive a lot into that. And we can set aside like specific lives just because what I will say, this entire process, if I didn't have the baseline experience, right, from my professional career before this.
yeah,
I have to, it's like, this is still a professional thing, but, what I did before ArcaneOso. Um, I think that, you know, finding a lot of information about how to do it, like you could find some of the basic stuff, right, about the open gaming license and
yeah,
the SRD and all this other kind of stuff, and that's readily available, etc. But when you haven't done it before, and trying to put those pieces together has proven difficult. Ironically enough, some of the off the shelf campaigns that I've run, which are spectacular, and of course, right, there are limitations when you write these types of campaigns and settings in terms of these are open world, open ended situations and games, and so much is determined by the players and the story that they create, which is what makes this game so incredible and
yeah,
so fun. And you don't want to hamper that. So, how do you walk that line? And what I found, even with the books, is they do a really good job of pulling a lot of cool stuff together into one space. In the same way that when you want to get into publishing, you can find a lot of information, but in terms of the connective tissues and what makes it cohesive and comprehensible is something that I find to be sometimes lacking. And when you find that, then suddenly maybe you find a door into a super cool market to be a part of. And so that's kind of how the curiosity started in 2020. Like everybody else, everyone's looking for something to do. Joe had played D&D, um, and if you know anything about Joe, you know that this dude is a scientist to the max, and he
Yep.
is about the numbers, the data, the facts. And when he plays, he is a min maxer like you've never seen. The dude is all about maximizing his build for like optimum lethality
Yeah.
and all that's, and I dig it, right?
Yep.
But on top of that, the guy is a walking encyclopedia, like a photographic memory, right?
Yep.
When he's DMing a campaign, it's all, I cast blah 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 fi, and he's just like, great. Well, that AOE is the blah 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 blah, and you're just like, right? When I DM, I'm all narrative, and someone's like, I cast whatever. I'm like, great, read it to me, right? And then
Right.
let's roll and whatever.
Yep.
So in coming up with the game, Joe invited us in 2020. I'm a super nerd. I'm into film and I'm into like licensing and stuff. And so my first question is, cool, man. Like my first question when he shared the campaign and was like, here's how you build it and here's the source materials. So few came from Wizards of the Coast. And so
Yeah.
many came from third party publishers. And I'm like, how are people publishing so much content for this game mechanic that they don't own? Introduce the open gaming license, all that stuff, and that starts the trickle. And
Yeah.
that's in like 2020. So for years, I'm kind of looking up and tracking, you know, how does this market react? Why? Because I'm a marketing person. That was my job before this. And
Yep.
so I geek out about that. And I like using, comps, right? So even though I'm doing recruitment marketing for the federal government at the time, it's how are we attracting crowds? And this whole like D&D thing that I'm into is just a fun way to start to piece some of those pieces together.
Yeah.
Fast forward to, October 2024, and contract world starts going crazy. Things are unknown. I'm a federal contractor, and lo and behold, I specialized in recruitment marketing when they're firing a bunch of people.
Yep.
And more important than that, I specialized in DEI recruitment marketing. so,
Right.
so I was a double whammy, or my market was anyway, or my job. And so I had done all this research, and I'm like, let's take all these skills and put them together.
Yeah.
How we land on Nightmares in Neverland is even more simple than that, right? Once you know, here's what I want to sell in the market I want to be in. Now it's about content. What do we come up with? And I remember playing a game, and somebody at the table was playing as some kind of a shape shifting druid, and they had a question about, oh, can I become a this and then I can fly? And it was immediate. Well, maybe at level this, and then not till level 8, and then even then it's very restricted. And you could see the person just kind of be like, oh, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
much other stuff to do, but
Yep.
that person wanted to fly. Like,
Right.
and that stuck with me. And I was like, how can there be such a game that is so open
Yeah.
but then still be simultaneously restrictive to the thing that this person wants to do? And when I was looking into that, I found that it's like the number 3 character people want to play as or use as a base for their build
Yeah.
is Peter Pan. And the reason he's not number 3 in build bases is because the reason people want to do it is for the flight. And they think it's fun. They can have this like, druid, ranger, blah, 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 whatever, right? And but then so many DMs would restrict it, which makes perfect sense, right? Like if you can fly over this obstacle or you can avoid this attack by floating up in the air, fine. Like that ruins the encounter and it ruins the game flow. But again, does that mean we don't do it or does that mean we come up with a better solution?
Yeah. For
And
sure.
so coming up with a world that baked in flight and seeing that people wanted to play in that type of world starts to connect the pieces for me as a marketing person.
Hmm.
And then it's content. Do I want to write it? So, step one, get the book. Look at
Right.
that. Get the
Right.
book, read it, mark it up, do all of this stuff color coded so that you can see, like, can I pull something I want to write out of
Yeah.
this world?
Yeah.
That was written by J.M. Barrie, who did a killer job. And I'll tell you right now, man, page one told me everything I needed to know. The way he describes stuff it just spoke to me. The way he describes Neverland, and most importantly, this book is terrifying.
Yeah.
Like it
Right.
is creepy, and I'm just like, not on the face, but you can see it, and so the work was almost done for me. I follow those breadcrumbs. I read this book and I say, I know what I would do with this, right? Peter
Yeah.
Pan is going to become King Peter of the Pan. I don't want kids in this book because we want people to feel free to punch anything they want in the face. Why?
Right.
Because what we just talked about, right? Player agency. I'm not going to build a game and fill it with 12-year-olds so that, and Joe was Johnny on the spot. My first
Yep.
idea wasn't about fighting kids, but it involved using like
Yes.
children to bring your players in to
Yep.
save whatever, right? And Joe was like, "Bro, like don't." And I was like, "But you're saving these kids." Like he's like, "But what if you fail?" And I was like, "Joe, that's a fair point." So
Yeah.
a few quick
If you've
adjustments.
ever played BioShock and you have the option to like harvest little children, like there are there are moments in that where you're like, what am I doing with my life? Like,
Listen, I mean, but you still do it because I'm a completionist. Like,
you're right.
I'm getting 100%. I
Absolutely.
gotta harvest some baby. No.
Yeah.
So you don't want that on the internet.
No.
So all of those pieces kind of came together
Yeah.
perfectly, and and when I say perfectly, does this thing work? Who knows? What I know for a fact is I'm making it,
Yep.
and I'm excited to be making it, and the story is incredible, and the characters are so much fun, and the world building has been so fulfilling in terms of when we find our root, right? And so now, great, we've got fairy tales. Cool, we've got a horror element that feels like they'll work together well. They've been similar things have been successful in the past. As a film guy, right? The first thing that you can do wrong is walk into a room full of studio execs and say, I've got this thing that you've never heard of before, and it's unlike anything you've ever seen, and watch how fast they show you the door. So it's a proven concept. We felt like we had a really cool and interesting new spin and take on it. We
Yep.
felt like we could expand that genre a bit and redefine flight a little bit, give players a little bit more agency, and introduce some cool new mechanics and some really cool creatures and NPCs based on IP or intellectual property that people are already familiar with. You know who Peter Pan is, and you know who Tinkerbell is, and you know who
Yep.
Daddy Hook is, and you know who Smee is, and more than that, you know who Robin Hood is, and you know who Geppetto is, and you know who Pinocchio is, and
Yeah.
on and
Yeah.
on and
So
on.
take that a little bit further. We talk a little bit. You see it mentioned if you've been following our ads and our socials. We talk about like other fables and poems and fairy tales, and so like this kind of grew out of an idea of like, hey, do we do Peter Pan, and then we kind of like, do we do another book for
Good
and
question.
kind of build out this web of what a year and a half ago we were like calling like a dark Disney kind of thing, right? Like off the Disney, but like starting with like the fair use stuff. But like, could we build a fairy tale world that was like the other side of the Disney-fied stuff, right?
Yeah,
So not your Disney Peter Pan, not your Disney Frozen, right? Like the true traditional stuff, as you said. Like the book wrote a lot of the horror for you. So what are some of those other fairy tales that we're pulling into this? When we write this story that maybe we haven't talked about in some of our ads and stuff.
totally. I think it's probably a fair enough place too to even make an extra mention in case now we've said the D word, and so now might potential backers be like, is this even gonna clear? Like, is this some info? All right, let's talk about that. No,
Yep.
that's a banger question, and yeah. So we come up with the idea. Like I said, I read the book. As you can see, now for me, it took me a good amount of time. Like I started working on this 2 years ago. I think it took me about 1 year and 11 months to read this book. No, I'm just kidding. But I read the book, and what I realize immediately is while there's an awesome foundation, right?
Yeah.
The location is obvious.
Yep.
One of the, several of the key NPCs are obvious, but there's not a ton of meat on these bones. And when I need to build an immersive and expansive, interconnected setting, multiple regions, multiple interconnected storylines, narratives, and all these other types of things, you need content, and you need
Yeah.
raw matter, right? That you can then shape. And so, I can't build a sandcastle with a thimble full of sand.
Right,
And
right,
so
right.
it became obvious pretty early on that we needed more. And so we had already established, or I had already established, like the premise of, okay, well, our base is fairy tales. And also, just to kind of to answer the copyright question, there's a difference between, and this will flex my master's degree studying uh, First Amendment copyright law. Um, Not as a lawyer, but just as a part of being a producer. So the in terms of that and those types of ramifications, we can't use or do anything that looks
Yeah,
familiar or remotely close to anything that Disney wrote for their animated films. Those are still protected under copyright. So to your point, our first ideas were about, because there wasn't a lot of meat, I knew I couldn't write a campaign setting. So
yeah,
then the question was, can I write a campaign? Can I write a fun, engaging campaign for Peter Pan, an adventure? And do it for, I think at first it was like levels like 1 to 8 or something like that. It was
yeah,
going to be kind of low stakes. And then the question was, can we make it a series and just maybe do like drive through RPG or something like that, where we just sell digital versions. Why? Because we knew we had to make a name for ourselves as a company, right?
yeah.
People aren't just going to say, "Oh, here's these guys who've never written a setting before," and so we knew we'd have to kind of earn our chops.
Yes.
That idea then was like, great, then we can release another one that is like an expansion, and we introduce the mermaids from the book and do a whole underwater campaign, and then we can do another thing and whatever. Again, the solution just presents itself, and it's like, well, why write all those things? Just bring them all in now, right? So fair use is you can use copyrighted materials for certain purposes. So, whatever. I'm not giving any advice, but the point is, be careful with that, because there are
Yeah,
no firm stipulations. But that's how you can see like people playing parts of a trailer and reacting to it, et cetera, right? You're not giving up the heart of it. That's fair use.
yeah,
The public domain is a
yeah,
totally different thing. Public domain is this: the copyright is expired on this book, not expired, but it's 75 years after the death, I think, of the creator. So that time had passed. This book, or no, I think it's from the. It doesn't matter. Don't quote me on any of it. But the point is this book was written in 1911 and it's in the public domain. So
yeah,
anything that appears in this book I can use. So the
yep,
names, the descriptions, the places, all that kind of stuff, and then we adapt it and weave it into our narrative. Um, Similarly, we can do the same. So, what are other fairy tales in the public domain? Specifically, fairy tales that would be recognizable to people. So, when you're looking at it through the Disney lens, you've got Peter Pan. Um, Alice in Wonderland's another one that's not in the book. There's, Frozen is based on a poem by Hans Christian Andersen called The Snow Queen.
yes,
So we now have a region called Finnmark, and the Snow Queen of Finnmark Mountain, pulled from that poem, is in our book. We have an NPC, Gerda, who is also pulled from that poem. She's kind of the Anna character in the
yes,
Disney movie. Obviously, they are not named that because in the poem they are Gerda and the Snow Queen. So
yes.
that's what they will be named in our stuff. Pinocchio is a source book for us, and we'll have a whole region in the caverns where Geppetto kind of rules, and he's one of our, you know, sketchies.
Yeah,
Um, Peter Pan is King Peter of the Pan, a satyr species, and he's our big bad in our campaign if we were to fund to that amount.
yep,
Um, but we'll obviously be an NPC and a big bad in the setting.
correct.
Um, what are the regions? We have sure. So the Neverwood is like a tropical jungle biome, and Tinkerbell and her Hada is what our fairy species are called.
Yep,
And they're more of an insectoid fairy race, or species, I should say. It's 5.5e. And so they're a fairy species called the Hada, and she is their leader, the Hada Domina, and they rule the Never Plains. They've been banished from the Neverwood into the Never Plains. Sherwood Forest, which sits at the base of Finnmark Mountain, is a boreal forest biome, so more of that wintry, UK vibe, but also mixed a little bit with some of those like Nordic, traditions. The Sirena are our mermaid species, and we have a whole underwater biome that you guys can explore as DMs all you want, or we'll build out in future expansions and campaigns. But it'll be everything you need is all included, and we've got some cool big bads in that.
Yep.
Um, what else am I? We got the caverns, the Neverwood, the Never Plains,
Yep.
Finnmark Mountain, Sherwood Forest,
Correct.
and Coral Caves and the Abyss.
Yep.
So, up to, six firm regions and ever expanding.
Yep.
Which is that's the other thing is, all the stuff we guarantee on this Kickstarter, that's where we're starting, right?
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
guaranteeing that's what I'm going to deliver. But like this, and like we're talking about, this has grown from like a series of one shots to a
Yep.
series of campaign adventures to now a huge setting with a potential for this massive campaign added on. If we can get enough backers and make this thing happen, then, and it's just going to keep grow. I just keep thinking of ideas. So I'll just keep putting it in as long as I can fit it into the timeline
Yeah, I
because we
think
are delivering on time.
what's the last the one of the last ones we had put in before we kind of shifted gears into the Kickstarter stuff was Geppetto. Like that like served a really creepy purpose and something that I pulled out of my head just thinking one night about, I think I was reading through Reddit or Instagram and people were like, "Hey, anybody ever think and like stop and think about what happens to all those kids that get turned into donkeys? Like they just live the rest of their lives as donkeys and like Pinocchio gets to go on his way." And that simple thought that I read somewhere on the internet spurred us to be like, maybe there's some use for a creepy version of Geppetto and Pinocchio in some regard. Now, again, as everything else, it's evolved past that and into something else. But yeah, I mean, we've come up with all sorts of different stuff. But to that, like, and I think we're teasing long enough. We can talk about Daddy Hook here in a second, but those are all our known commodities. Obviously, you said Sherwood Forest, so you expect Robin Hood will make a. I don't think we specifically mentioned Robin Hood, but he'll be part of this as well in a certain capacity. But beyond that, like what are some of the creatures that we've created specifically for that are like whole cloth by us? Like I know you came
Mm.
up with a kind of a race of which will seem obvious in a second, that live out in the woods up in the Finnmark Mountains and going to work with the Snow Queen. I'm really interested to see these people fleshed out, but it'll be obvious when you say it. The
Yeah. So, yeah, we've created quite a few so far, with more to come. I'll end with them. So, one example would be the Lost Boys. Same thing, right? Peter Pan can't be a 12-year-old, neither can the Lost Boys. So, what are the Lost Boys? So, we created this a new stat block for the Lost Boy, and they are homunculi creatures that the Pan have created
Yep.
as their army. And so, really cool thing about the Lost Boys is because they're homunculus, they it all depends, right? Their abilities, all that kind of stuff depend on the pieces that were fused.
Yeah.
So if you have more of like a water based Lost Boy, or you have more of like a jungle base, or more of a this, then and as a DM you'll be able to pull pieces and build your own homunculus Lost Boy for whatever need or thing that you need, and we'll give you all the guidelines and stuff to do that. So that's a cool example of something we've created for this book, and also something kind of modular that you can sort of build within the build.
Yeah.
Um,
And they pack a punch. As somebody who had to sit in on a play session, even knowing what I knew about their build, ouch.
so then, I think what you were talking about too is a new species that we're building for Neverland, that we call the Osoin.
Yep.
And so the Osoin, as you say, are a bear folk race, species of of creatures that that live in Finnmark Mountain and the sort of the sort of the outlying areas. They do not work with the Snow Queen of Finnmark Mountain, but
Oh, right, right.
rather are firmly against her.
That's right. That's right.
And there may be some potential for allegiances with and alliances with maybe the Merry Men of Sherwood Forest or Gerda or some others, but it'll be fun. But that's another one, and there's tons. Like I think we're gonna have all told, um, it's I think it's out the gate 100 unique stat blocks for
Yep.
this book.
Yep.
And I think then we have stretch goal to add six to each region, or sorry, four to each region minimum, which would bring us up closer to about 125. And like I said, I'm not capping any of it. That's why I want to put 100 plus. It's
Yep.
just simply because as we continuously build this world, the need for new NPCs and new other things might present themselves, and we're going to add those in. Like we're not holding anything back if it
No.
makes sense, and that's the key point too, is that this book is very much narrative focused, and I
Yes.
think this leads into Kate's question too,
Yep.
at least part two of her question, which is that this book is very much narrative focused. And to that end, everything has to make sense and connect, right? Whether you choose to use those connections or not are completely up to you. And we
Yep.
have a full detailed narrative guide that's included in the campaign setting that will help to show you, in just a cleaner way, how those webs weave, right? And so therefore, if I don't want to explore this part, here's all the pieces that connect to that I would either ignore or I can reassign, and we'll show you how those things can reassign
Yeah.
so that work is almost done. And again, suggestions, take them, break them, do whatever you want to do. It's
Yep.
your game.
Yep.
But so with it being so narrative focused, it is I talked myself out of where I was going with it. But,
Well,
but
I think we, as we've established, like we are narrative driven from the beginning, right? We've worked on other projects. We've kind of tried to come up with other ideas. We were looking at writing a movie script at one point. We talked about movies for hours on a podcast. Like we are narrative driven. So every decision that we are going to make, and just
that's what it was.
if you could see the webs and the like, just the way that things are mapped out, like if people could peek in your brain and see our working papers and see all of the stuff that you have mapped out, every decision is narrative driven, and nothing has been done arbitrarily. And
My mural boards are crazy.
yeah, and apparently those decisions have,
I'm gonna pull those up next time. Maybe people
yeah,
will be
yeah,
into some of that. Yeah.
and apparently those decisions have resulted in some very hot and sexy men. So, um,
I I will. I think it's awesome that. So I create all the creatures. Joe creates all the stat blocks.
yeah,
And then Gaurav does all the artwork. And
yeah,
so I'm working with Gaurav. I work with Joe, and I say, here's my character. Here's the front end. Here's what he looks like, or here's what he does, and then here's a general kind of appearance. And then he uses that to build out abilities and stats and whatever.
yeah,
Then I go to Gaurav, and man, if Gaurav doesn't turn out just some sexy, sexy artwork,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and I'm here for it.
yep. Like, and we kept like and purposely, like when I remember going over the Hook artwork, like, that one to us was like, oh, this is really straightforward. I mean, he's a pirate. Like, there's not much we can do with it. We went a little bit more historically accurate pirate wise, like, that kind
Yeah.
of like, Caribbean kind of descent, dreads, and we were kind of like, yeah, this is cool.
And
But
how Hook is described in the book.
correct, how exactly he is he is
Hook is
described.
African descent, hair like ropes, blah
Yep.
blah blah. Like,
And
let's
and
not
that's,
whitewash awesome characters.
yeah, and we're like, yeah, this is great. It's spot on. There's there wasn't a lot of back and forth over that as some of our other designs where we're like, this is a bug fairy that's got to turn into an even more gruesome bug. Like, But look, I mean, he's got a fan club already, and he lives on the Jolly Roger. We don't have those exact coordinates for you. I know you want them, but when we get it's
Is that what she said?
yeah, yeah. If you want to figure it out now, I mean, you just go, second star and straight on till morning, and
You can
hopefully,
figure it out. Here, I'll tell you what. We'll take a super quick look. Here's the
yeah,
Kickstarter. I'm gonna
yeah,
hit refresh. Oh, I thought I had. All right, here it is. Okay,
right.
so this is so tiny. Okay, this is the Neverwood. All right, over here you can see the
Oh, wait.
spires.
Do you have to share your screen?
Isn't
Because
it? Is it
I'm
not showing up?
not. Oh, you know what? I don't know. There's a delay on the so I can't see it. So
Ah,
I
all
don't know.
right. Well, we'll see if this comes out. Um,
Oh, okay. Wait, here it comes. I see it. I
okay,
see it on the
you can
live
see
now.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. This is super tiny. I don't think I use. Yeah, I didn't really use it anywhere else. Here, I know what we could do. Let's
When
pause it here. Okay. All right. Can you see this?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So here is Neverland. All right. So for coordinates, this obviously Finnmark Mountain. It looks like it's cropped off, but like right here you can see the base of the Snow Queen castle.
For sure.
Here is Sherwood Forest, right? Here is the abyss. Over here is Coral Caves, and you can
Yep.
see the underlying, the Serena area, and then the spires coming out.
Yep.
Um, then this is, effectively Mermaid Lagoon, which is what it's called in the book, but I'm not 100% that I'm keeping it. And you can see right here is the Jolly Roger. Here's
Uh-huh.
the Neverwood and the Never Plains, and good old Hook and his Caracan, which is what we are calling our pirate species or
Yep.
whatever. Like, is it technically a species? They're human, but whatever, a
Yeah.
variant. Anyways, this is the bordering wall of their town, Keelhaul Cay,
Yep.
and that there is the Jolly Roger. So, sexy Daddy Hook lives right here on the Jolly Roger, and Governor Smee serves as the governor of Keelhaul Cay right here in the Caracan village.
Yes. So
Boom!
it's
I wrote all that.
yeah, and yes, it is your time for your road trip, I guess. But luckily, you don't have to pay. You don't need gas for this trip. You just gotta get some fairy dust and learn to fly, and then you can go find Daddy Hook. So,
That's it. Yeah, so Daddy Hook. Hook is a fun one. As you said, he was a fun one to design. He is
yeah,
actually here's a little fun fact. He is loosely based, maybe not so loosely, on my grandfather.
yeah,
So the green eyes and the darker skin, that comes from my grandpa. He had green eyes and skin like mine. And he was always super suave, like always slicked his hair back, and just there was just an aura to this man.
yeah,
And so I wanted to capture some of that visually. So those were some of the things I made. So if you think Hook is sexy, you should have met Esteban, because that
yeah.
man will make you feel things. No, but otherwise he's very closely tied to the book. Um, as I mentioned, our pirates are known as the Caracan, and they are in Neverland for their reasons,
Yep.
and it's super cool. I'm really excited. Some of this stuff, like, it'll be, we'll give you all that in the book, but man, I hope so hard. I mean, I don't know, and you saw, like, we're at about 10%,
Yeah.
so I am really hoping that it goes, and I'm really hoping that it goes big so that we can write this campaign,
Yeah.
because the story that I have in my head is epic.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, half of it's already kind of down on paper, so it's just a
Yeah.
question. Like, but we got to focus on the thing that we got to write. So
Yeah. Yep.
the point, but it's so hard. It's so hard to not like go down that road. Um,
For sure.
so Daddy Hook, he's epic. He sexy as the day is long. But my favorite part is not necessarily your bad. Like
Yeah.
he could very easily serve any role in a campaign, and so I think the question that you mentioned was how often will he show
Yes.
up?
Yep. Yep.
And the answer to that question is as much as little as you want him to. Like you're
Yeah.
the DM. So,
Yeah.
you can forge your campaign and your game using our pieces however you want. Like if you want to just live in Caracan world and just live and breathe Captain Hook, do it.
Yeah. And I
Otherwise
think
he's yeah.
and I think too, like that kind of plays up to the other part that's really a tenet of what we want to do with this and future projects, which is we want to open this up and be playable for everybody, right? Like, you and I came into this hobby like going on 6 years ago now, as fairly like I knew about D&D. I had an idea about it, but I didn't really know what all it entails. And I think with the pandemic and then Stranger Things and all of this stuff that's kind of propelling D&D into this new spotlight, again, is I think more people are interested, and the more people I talk to, I find out all sorts of people are playing it now, right? But I
Or
think
at the
that's
very
really,
least are super curious about it and want to
yeah,
try it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we've transcended the 80s version of like the people that play D&D. I mean, you've got Critical Role, and you've got all these YouTube channels and all this stuff to follow and to learn. But we want to make ours accessible too. So, the other part of the question we had was, can anybody play? And yeah, we want to design this to make sure it's accessible for all people. So to what you're saying, like, you want to take elements from this and you want to just run it straight pirates and ignore other parts. Absolutely. And you can scale it up and scale it down. And yes, it's a horror book, but you can skip some of the things that we're going to introduce and maybe keep it a little bit more on the fairy tale adventure angle and stray a little bit less from the horror. So yeah, I mean, we'd like to see anybody play it. We'd love to get people to play it, and our down the road, some of our delusions of grandeur are hosting these games ourselves and bringing this stuff to people and bringing ourselves and our product out to the masses and playing this with real people and doing parties and all sorts of crazy stuff like that comes down the road. This is just the beginning.
Yeah.
uh
I think you make a lot of killer points, and I just to add a few little notes is 100. Everyone says, and everyone will tell you, and that's not to say they're wrong, but everyone will tell you like, oh, look at my book, and oh, I know D&D is scary, but not this one, right? And so my question is always, what makes your book so accessible and so much different and so different from
yeah,
all the others who have promised similar, but people have been really, I don't know, intimidated, right?
yeah,
To give it a
yep,
shot.
yep,
It's a lot. I mean, look at it's just stacks of books,
yeah,
like, and I get it. I think our situation is this. We talked a little bit about so tools, right? And then I'll bring it home and kind of put a bow on Kate's epic question, which
yeah,
is we talked about our narrative map, that or our narrative guide. That is that's a no-brainer. It out the gate it's just going to be like you don't have to you can think as much or as little about story and the connected parts as you want,
yeah,
because you can easily look at this narrative guide and be like, I like Daddy Hook and I like pirates, and that narrative guide you just go to pirates or Caracan and you look and it's here are all the pieces that connect to the Caracan readily and easily. Okay, cool. What speaks to me? The Serena, the Merfolk. Great, that's cool. I want to play with that a little bit. The Pan, not this time. The Hada, no, the whatever, right? And then when you find those pieces, then you can just immediately and organically just build your base campaign,
yeah,
and then all those pieces have their interconnected parts, and everything just drag and drop, and it works out really well. In
yep,
addition to that, which you'll find in every book, but we are trying to be really clear and super like almost almost more info than maybe you need, right? But
Yeah.
including DM notes and inline text that really clarifies things for you as you go, limits how much back and forth you have to do, really limits how much you have to dig into other source materials, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Um, and so external referencing as little as possible, and making it so that when you buy our book, there are no surprises. You're not going to open this book and be like, oh, great, now I got to go buy these other ones just to find this stat block to use in my game. Like, no, it's there for you.
Yep.
Um, so I feel like the barrier to entry on our book is significantly lower.
Sure.
And I think, too, just the nature of the material makes it instantly more like it's just easier to grasp. You know who Hook is, you know who all these people are. The last thing I'll say is our big mechanic that we're working
Yeah.
um, really hard on is the nightmarish transformations and just this cool idea of how we can bring this twist to an already well established combat system. and
Yeah.
and my thought was, all right, Neverland is always pretty and awesome and cool. It's powered by the dreams of children in outer worlds, but what happens when those kids have bad dreams? Like, what happens to Neverland? So, in our world, Neverland is in the day when everyone's dreams are nice. There's always somebody sleeping, and so Neverland is just constantly powered by that
Yep.
situation, as it is in the book, as one would expect. If kids start having bad dreams, then Neverland goes into nighttime, and at night, native Neverlandian creatures endure nightmarish transformations, as you heard in the book, in the video. And so, but the biggest thing that does is it gives a completely alternate stat block and abilities to these creatures. And
Yeah.
therefore, in the daytime and at night. So if you are, an encounter that you have with a lost boy, or rather with a pan in the daytime, will look very different, right? So if you encounter a pan on day whatever, and then several days later, it's now night, that encounter is going to look completely different.
Yeah.
More importantly, if nighttime falls in the middle of an encounter, then the outcome of that encounter might look
Yes.
very different. Like, you
Yeah.
can go from just wiping the floor with this creature to now all of a sudden it's nighttime and this creature is making a comeback. And so adding that dynamic play, addition, a lot of the NPCs that aren't native have these really cool, interplay mechanics in their
Yeah.
combat. The Karakan are one, lots of interplay in terms of kind of setups and buffs
Yes.
to like NPCs and like stat blocks.
Yep.
And so, utilizing one grappling effect to have it play off of another, you just get that cinematic feel of, one thing leading to another, and it being a lot more of an immersive combat experience
Yeah.
versus strictly roll for initiative. This person does their this, and this person does their that, and
Yep.
blah, blah, blah. It's much more set up. I feel like that makes it more dynamic and interesting for DMs, but it's going to
Absolutely.
make it a lot more cinematic for players. Um,
And the funny
and
thing is, you and I actually just carried that idea into a campaign that Joe is actually running
yeah,
for
like
us.
our private kit. Yeah,
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 we not to get too tangential, but like we are playing brothers in this campaign and decided to build our characters to set each other up in this way. So I'm a ranger fighter, and I took feats and abilities that would help set up Kiko's character as a barbarian. So like I want to knock people prone and I want to disarm them so then he can just slaughter them. And it just makes it so much more dynamic, and I think more engaged for me for the party. So I'm like, okay, I want to do this to set this up rather than just me, wailing and bailing on my turn. So
and that's a perfect summary of like why is that unique and interesting and worth your backing is that
yeah,
not everything has to be this earth shattering, like, oh my gosh, I've just invented this great thing, right? We've got plenty of that, and the transformations, all that kind of stuff. It's super cool, but it's also just about taking native stuff that already exists in the game, right? But for example, something like that, we've been playing since 2020. It's taken us
yeah,
6 years to be able to get to a place of comfort and familiarity with the rule sets and with builds that we knew how to do that. And it could be like, cool, I'll take the storm uh, um, Goliath trait,
yeah,
and it can play super cool with your trait, and then we'll do, I'll use World Tree instead of I always want to say Totem Warrior. It's different
Yeah,
now. Wild
yeah,
Heart, I think, is what it's called.
yeah,
Um, I want to go World Tree instead because then I can use that grapple teleport thing, which would be a cool counterpunch, or like at the very least a hint to your teleport abilities. And so
yeah,
why wait 6 years to start having that type of immersive fun and understanding of a game when we can build these characters and these blocks to just instantaneously out of the box clearly play with each other and introduce players to something that immersive and cool from minute one. And so I think that's another way that we are using these things and tailoring them and building them in such a way that it does make our game and our
yeah,
book and our setting very much it really does lower that barrier to entry. And with nightmarish transformations dictating those stat blocks in that way, we've also set up the scenario right where because I've gotten a few questions from friends and some other folks where it's like, hey, can I tell my kid's friends about this? Like my kid's friend plays D&D. Can he like he's 14, he's this, he's that. I'm not here to give advice on the age. D&D Wizards of the Coast says that D&D is for ages 13 and up,
yeah,
right? In terms of our specific material, that's up to parents,
yeah,
like whether or not their 13-year-olds play. But what I will say is this: we want to offer a world that is as terrifying as possible for the
yeah,
people who want that.
yeah,
But we do not want to alienate people who aren't big into horror or big into scary or big into this, that, or the other. And so our world is instantly adaptable, right? And flexible. So if it doesn't become nighttime and Neverland is always in the happy day,
yep,
then your characters can interact and do things differently. And so yeah, you could just do a total daytime Neverland thing, nothing turns scary. You're still gonna have all the meat you want. All the creatures are still gonna be, packing the punches they need to pack
right,
to make the game engaging and fun, but it can also be accessible to younger audiences, older people who don't like scary stuff, people who don't want to tackle a bunch of stuff all at once, et
right.
cetera, et cetera. You don't have to worry about all that.
And you talk about the mechanic, and that was one of the things that you and I and Joe kind of we had a lot of conversations about because we liked that. And how do we do that? Do we follow a 24-hour day, or like does time work differently in Neverland? Um, how, explain that a little bit. Talk about how the DM can control that mechanic. You mentioned that like it might happen in the middle of an encounter. You might fight a pan today, and you're like, well, that guy was a pushover. And then you run into him tomorrow night, and he knocks you on your butt. So
And that'll depend. Did you run into
yeah,
a pan guardian or a pan hunter? Did you run into a pan lord? Did you like, right?
yep,
We have various stat blocks to give you what you need. And so to that end, right? Like flexibility and how things pack a punch. And then, sorry, what was the question one more time? Like
so
the art of it,
how are we making that mechanic work? How can the DM control
day and night.
that?
How can you control day and
Yeah,
night? Yep.
yeah,
So in the story, I mean, you're going to have a lot of options. And so without making Joe angry that I divulged too much information on our very first live, the again, we'll save some stuff for backers and their updates specifically. Um, Here's what I will say. So we already talked about how day and night you can, that's when certain scary stuff happens.
yep,
If you want to restrict that, limit that. So at its core, I will say this: if we fund for the campaign for the adventure itself, the core inciting incident of that game is that so how does Neverland find itself here? So Neverland used to be all light all the time because
yep,
it is powered by the dreams of like babies, like small infant children. And so that's just from the book, all that kind of stuff. Those children never come to Neverland and no one goes and affects them, right? But they dream up Neverland and it is created based on those dreams.
yep,
And then the way that we have then said it is okay, well, how do we make this beautiful thing turn sour? And so the way that we've tied it is okay, I don't want to give too much away, but it's also from the book, which is that, right? So we know that the Hada, as we call them, but Tinkerbell, we know that fairies in this book, in Peter Pan, are tied to belief, right? And so when kids believe, don't believe, they die, they do all this kind of stuff. we have taken elements of that into our game and into the adventure. Also, it'll obviously appear in the lore for the campaign setting.
Yep.
But that concept translates to motivations for Tinkerbell, right? Here she
Yep.
has this species that she is this clan of Hada, and she is the Domina, and she is responsible for them, and she is watching them perish. Why? Because of the just the whims of a child's belief, and to her that doesn't seem fair when so many other species can go centuries ageless and all this other kind of stuff. All of that is in our book, right? The
Right.
agelessness, all that kind of stuff. So and that's actually a really fun mechanic when it applies to the Caracan.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep some
Yeah.
mysteries, you know
Right.
what I mean? Like, so I'm telling you, we have a lot of cool stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, it's been a
okay.
year and a half of like only talking to two other people in the world about this stuff, so it's hard to contain
I
it.
know, dude. I know. And okay, so the Hada have always ruled Neverland, and now suddenly Tinkerbell is motivated to break some of the rules and laws of Neverland to expose her species to these children, because her workaround is like all we have to do is make them believe forever, like
Yeah.
you know. And so in the act of doing that, she does something frightening, right?
Yeah.
They do not look, I mean, even in their daytime state, they're buggy, right? And so
Yeah.
the concept and the loose idea, super broad strokes, is certain species within Neverland take actions that, without anyone's knowledge, right, kind of speaks back to the dream,
Yeah.
right? And in that way, right, so that connection in some way works both ways. So in the same way the dream can influence Neverland, the dreamer can see Neverland in their dreams.
Yeah.
And so if someone in Neverland does something kind of spooky, then that kid will get scared in their dreams, and suddenly a happy dream becomes a nightmare. And when enough children witness the same event, then and you get enough nightmares, it plunges Neverland into nighttime
Yep.
until enough kids that are having good dreams bring it back into daytime. And
Yep.
so, to answer your question in a very broadish way, the DM will determine those things, right? The DM can determine if an action that a player takes is horrific enough that it might spark enough children to
Sure.
have a nightmare. The DM can, if people aren't triggering that because you have a very timid party who doesn't want to break any laws and everyone's a super lawful good character,
Yeah.
then you can have your NPCs do it. And we already have baked in baked in events like I've already talked about. There are certain things the Hada have chosen to do. There are certain things Peter has created a homunculi army. They are an abomination. When a kid, instead of seeing a happy panther like chilling in the woods, now sees this snarly, like, no thank you, right?
Yeah.
And so
Right.
boom, nighttime. Like, it can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be. We will also include some kind of general sort of timelines for when night can fall if you want to be more on a kind of traditional sort of gameplay mode.
Yeah.
Um, and all of that will be presented to you in the book. You can select how you want to handle it or come up with something completely on your own. It's totally up to you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating. I mean, um it's been such a joy to come up with this stuff and then work through it with you to figure out how all of this is going to work. And yeah, I mean, I please go back this because we really want to write this, and then we want to go write a next one, which we already have ideas on. So
I mean,
there's
is that not crazy? Like, so, and I was just talking to Alyssa about it. I know you're wrapping up and you're doing a really good job. And I'm doing a really terrible job and being a horrible guest. So I was just talking to Alyssa, because already, right, some lessons learned. When you launch things, like you have dreams and aspirations of what it might look like, and of course, everyone wants to be the next big thing and say, "Oh, I got this great idea," but I feel like we've always known that this was going to be a grind, and
yep,
it may not happen on the first go, and it might happen, and it might happen huge, and it might happen out. It doesn't matter. Like, this idea, it's in us now, and like it'll happen one way or another. um but to that point, one of the lessons learned is like, oh man, if we could have done this a little bit different, and we're already applying that to our next book, which is already in pre-development. And so we are kickstartering a project that I have written a fair amount, and then we just need to bring that home and finalize that and tie some of those loose ends and get all the artwork finalized. That's a problem. We only have two artists, and
Yep.
everything we do is human made, absolutely everything. And
100%.
so, if we fund for enough, we're looking to bring on two more artists, one to help
Yep.
with an alternate art style and one to help with items and things like that.
Yep.
Potentially even a fifth artist who focuses a lot more on like creatures and animals specifically.
Yep.
Um, Garb's amazing, but we can't ask him to make every item, every like. Whew. So so
And
all of that.
that's coming from somebody who literally does everything else in the company. So, you know.
That's right. That's my job. So but and yeah, to that point too, I do all the graphic design. So if you think our ads, our AI, or anything else, next time I'm happy to pull up all my layers, all my stuff. My stuff is not good. Like, it should be obvious. So I haven't been a graphic designer since like 2014.
Right.
So let's,
Right.
come on. I'm
But I
doing
think,
pretty good. The
I think that's all part of what we are doing. We are, to kind of put a bow on all of this, we are launching this project, but we are also launching this company, and we are diverse individuals. Like, we have talked many times about what do we want to do, what do we want to use our voices for. We love so many different things. Like, I have a theater background. I've worked in professional theater on the admin side for going on 20-ish years. I'm into music. I love my baseball and my hockey. I love movies. I'm all over the place. I cook. I take care of my home. You come, like, we've drywalled most of
most of my house.
yeah, most of your house. But then we can sit down and spend a whole day just watching movies back to back or playing board games. So, to expect from us down the road, we're going to be going to all sorts of different crazy places with this. Like, this is a horror game. Who knows what we'll do next? And we have an idea, something maybe a little bit more spooky, maybe a less on the horror side, but
More on
maybe.
the like noir detective side.
Yeah, so we could be all over the place, but I think the one thing absolutely that we guarantee is that as artists and people who appreciate art, it will never be generated by anybody other than humans. So,
Not one word of copy. I write every post. I write every page. I write everything. Like
so
nothing
either
is AI. I don't allow any AI assisted stuff on meta ads. Nothing.
either we're just that good, or like
Or
not.
that, or we look that bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but we're feeling all this out, and we're so excited. We're just so stoked to do this.
And I'm
So,
excited. I'm excited to see like Kate and Cara and everybody like stoked to play their first time. I
yeah,
mean, we're gonna just set that up anyway,
yeah,
whether they want that or not. And
yes,
then the what's the other? I did see. Oh, Cara asked, with all the work we put into it, what was
yep,
the reason behind only giving ourselves a single month on Kickstarter? So
yeah,
yeah, that's a great question.
yep,
It's pretty simple. It's just the law of diminishing returns. I
yeah,
think with Kickstarter, especially crowdfunding in general, um, it is I mean anything can happen first and foremost, and I'm somebody also where well it doesn't matter, but the point is that are we where we hoped we'd be at this point? No, but who knows what'll happen if you the way Kickstarter especially works is you really do get your biggest push smack in the beginning. After that, it immediately begins to be the law of diminishing return. And what's actually recommended by Kickstarter themselves is 30 days. If you can go up to 60, um, but you risk missing out on more funding. Like you'll actually fund for less if you run for 60 than 30 in certain markets, and D&D just happens to be one of those. That being said, just if one doesn't pan out, that doesn't mean that's the last time and we're done. Like I said, I've put 2 years into this, and thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Right.
And like I think all told, all combined, it's been about 13 grand
Yep.
launching this book.
Yep.
And so asking 25 for it literally covers production, like just to
Yep.
actually print the book and send it to that many backers, and produce the art, like the bare bones art.
Correct.
um the more we can fund, the more we can deliver, and the better we can, we can do
Yeah.
more art, we can add more stuff. And if this one doesn't work out, all it means is retool and relaunch.
Yeah.
We'll spend however much longer it takes to see what the fail point was. I feel really good about the product.
Absolutely.
I think
Yep.
the idea is sound. I think people are into it. If it fails, I don't think it's the idea. I think it's just, like you said, me wearing so many hats
Yep.
simultaneously that I'm sure that there's plenty of things I could have done more efficiently and effectively. And we'll see. One thing I didn't see coming was all the AI stuff. Like that was
Yeah.
bananas.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yep.
didn't I didn't think everyone and their
Yes.
mother's first question would be like, "Is this AI?"
I mean,
So
I think that's something we learned organically as we were looking through the Kickstarter and finding out from other people's experiences that defending your work against those accusations is just a common thing now. And not to mention, in the last 18 to 24 months, AI has grown exponentially more difficult to detect, especially when you get into artwork and creating and things like that. But again, I can't say it vehemently enough. Like, we come from backgrounds where um, you know AI would be taking food off of people's tables, because we are creative people that work with creative people who produce artwork for a living. So that is nothing we would ever contribute to.
no,
So
and it's incredibly frustrating too that we have to devote so much time to defending that we aren't AI when
yeah,
that time could be better served actually making cool stuff.
yeah,
And so yeah, it's just another reason why it's like, gosh, I wish this would just go away. Look, I get it. I understand it's a complicated conversation. At the end of
yep,
the day, it's a simple answer from us. We don't use it in any capacity whatsoever.
yep.
So
Rest
um
assured, Daddy Hook is 100%
he
man-made.
is oh my god, that's funny. Ah, what else, man? Anything else? We've been oh man, it's
Yeah,
almost 8:20.
yeah, we've been rolling. So I mean, I think that covers a lot.
I
I think
talk, bro. I talk.
you think I don't know this. Um, but yeah, I mean, like we said, there's different things coming from us. This is just the beginning. The company is part of it. The game is the second part of it. Um, yeah, can we get the link to our website and Kickstarter itself? I can see it listed. Yeah, is it not? We can. Do you want to drop that in the chat?
Ooh, I can't. Can you? Because I'm
Uh,
connected through OBS. The answer is
oh yeah,
yes. We're gonna put
yeah.
it. We will put it in there. Um,
I can probably.
I don't want to try it and then accidentally like
Yeah, yeah.
share something on my thing.
Let me see if I have it on what I've got 5 different things. I do have the Kickstarter open here, and I should be able to move it over here. All these technical wizardry things that I'm doing.
There you go. Copy paste, baby.
Yeah.
And I will make
That's
sure
Yep.
you dropped it in.
Yep. It is in the chat.
Sweet. All right.
Yeah.
So
We'll
yep,
tag stuff with that too. So
it's in the
um
chat for now, but we'll definitely get it. If it's not in the description, I'll make sure it gets added to it.
yeah, for sure. Um yeah, any other final thoughts? I mean, we're gonna do this probably more on the regular. Joe will join us at some point. Um and
Yeah, I think in some capacity, at least I hopefully you and I, and I'm hopeful Joe can join us.
Yep.
I think at least during launch, we'll probably do them maybe weekly or something, and then after
Yeah.
that, we'll get into because this is how we want to do our updates. Like, of course, we'll send out the newsletter every month that'll have all of our updates with progress on things. It'll have play testing stuff. That's a few other quick things. It's all on the Kickstarter, but every backer gets access to early release and play test materials.
Yeah.
We really want, like, here's what I will say. I didn't start this company just because. Like, it was a good fit for many reasons, and one of those reasons is I am in love with this community. Like when we went to the what was it, the 20-sided tavern, and when we did
Yeah.
all this other stuff, like every time I'm around this community, it's just a good time. And
Yeah.
like I have yet to have a bad experience. And so,
Yeah.
I don't want to just write a book to write a book, and I don't want to just write a book to sell the book, but I want to write something that this community enjoys. And for that, the community should be involved. And so,
Yeah.
our backers are going to be involved in that process and give us that feedback and help us to really make sure that the book that arrives at your door is something that you're really excited to play and be a part of, and something that you can look at and say, in some small way, in whatever way, like I helped shape this product,
Yeah.
and that's no small thing. This game is communal. The whole experience works that way. Like the publishing should be no different.
Yeah. And I
Um,
think I think that really answers the question that just came through, and I think we can kind of wrap up after that. But what we're most excited about for the project coming up, is it getting to interact with the people, or is it something else? And I think you just touched on that. Like, I think it's for me, getting our ideas out there, getting your ideas out there to fruition, bringing something that clearly people have been asking about or noodling around with in the community. But I think also for me, on a more selfish personal level, is just to be creative and do something. We've scratched at other projects for a while, and just to be able to have something else. Not like I don't have a million other things going on between my day job and a family and that stuff, but to have a creative outlet that we can work together, and it's something we enjoy doing. It's something we enjoy playing with our friends on Friday night. And it's something fun to talk about with our team and develop. I mean, putting the video together was an absolute blast. Shout out to Zach for that. That was one of my most fun days. It didn't hit me until the end at how exhausted I was, but absolutely just how fulfilled I was for the days after, that I just spent so much time like with creative energy. That was fun. That was spooky.
it's Daddy Hook. He's
Yeah.
coming for me. I can hear the scratching on the
Right.
window. Um, the no, I'm sorry to interrupt. That you were on a roll and it was beautiful. And I agree whole cloth. Like I think, from my perspective, what am I the most excited about? Obviously, number one is just, seeing something I created being enjoyed by people. And
Yeah.
to me, as a creative, right? So starting as an artist, graphic designer, video producer, creative director, and now here I am. It is, you know, the dream. I've spent my entire career making stuff for other people, right?
Yeah.
Like I get the ask, I come up with the solution, I make it for them, boom, we're done. They say they want it purple, I make it purple. A true creative situation, engagement process, whatever, to me is I'm making something that I'm feeling like it's just a part, like I'm making something I want.
Yeah.
And my hope is that there is enough people who find that interesting enough that they're into it too and willing to give it a shot.
Yeah.
I do believe, though, if I'm not making it for me, it will never feel genuine. It'll never resonate. You'll never find that connective tissue for yourself. And so, what I'm really looking forward to is, any feedback, whether it's someone doing a post, sending a message on our website, commenting on something or whatever. When you get this book and you see it, I want you to be blown away by the art. I want you to be mesmerized by the story. I want you to be lost in it all.
Yeah.
And that will just feed me and make me want to do another one and another one and another one. I think the other thing I'm just excited about is exactly what you described. Like, dude, my favorite thing to do is get in a room with you and just talk story.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a story dude. I want to build a world that makes sense and that people are excited to play. I don't want anybody to experience something in a game that's built from one of my books and be like, what the heck is this doing in here?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I want them to just be like, dude, everything has a purpose. There is no like just it's all lean meat, like, and
Yep.
so I get excited about that too. um yeah, I think those are the two biggest ones, man. I'm excited to make something that speaks to me, that I think would be fun to play. And dude, if I can wake up and there's, however many people who are like, hey, we're about this too, like, it's just that, man. It's that connection. Like, and like we said, we've never had a bad experience. The second we got on socials, it took no time at all before some of the other local creators, DC Dungeons and a few other
Yeah.
folks who reached out or responded to something that I said and were just instantly like, dig what you're doing. How can I help?
Yep.
And you just don't find that in a lot of communities. And
Yep.
I'm just excited to be a part of that.
Yep.
It's just such a positive space. Um, it feels good. And then it feels good to make them feel good. So it's very reciprocal in that sense. I don't know.
Absolutely.
That would be my
Absolutely.
answer.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Boom. Anyways, I'm sure there's a lot I started answering and then lost trains and did whatever. But like Tim said, we'll do this all
Yeah.
throughout launch and then ongoing. And dude, I'm nothing if not transparent. So like,
Yes.
if
Yeah.
anything, you'll get too much info from me. But I promise I will always make it on your terms. So that's why I like the idea of the lives. People can tune in or not. Email blasts once a month. I'm not here to clutter your inboxes with stuff, nor
For sure.
do my emails even show up in your inbox. Like, so far, you got to really search for our stuff. Um, and then updates in the Kickstarter and stuff like that, obviously. But we're not here to pester you, but we're definitely not here to hide from you. So,
Yeah.
you can reach us. You can get us on Instagram. We check that. Shoot us a message from our website, arcaneoso.com.
Yep.
um, there's any page you can send a message, but there's obviously a contact page. Instagram is obvious at ArcaneOso RPG, I think, actually ArcaneOso
Yep.
RPG.
Yep.
Here on YouTube, all that stuff, man. If you have a question, if you're wondering something, if whatever it is, I'll answer the AI question for the 8,000th time. Like, reach out. We're here. We are serving you. And if we're writing and you have a question, we will answer your question and then get right back to writing, because that's what we're here to do, is engage with this community and deliver quality products.
Yep.
So please don't hesitate. Like, there's no stupid question. We might laugh. We might laugh at you a little bit, but we'll never let you know. Anyway, what else?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll make sure all the links and everything are where they should be. And I apologize. It has been an absolute it has been such a whirlwind getting to today.
Yeah.
And so I promise I'm gonna sleep like a baby. Probably not, but I'm gonna try real hard. And then tomorrow we'll get right back to work and make sure that all our T's are crossed and I's are dotted.
Yep.
Um,
Spread
so
the
we
word. Spread the
keep you
word.
guys waiting.
Share it. Share it. Share it. We're excited about it. We want everyone else to be excited about it, and we appreciate it. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Thanks everybody who showed up and
Yep.
chatted with us. And sorry, I'll get used to this.
Yeah.
I was trying to stay with you, but the no, this was super cool. And dude, it's fun to get
Yeah.
back at it. We'll
Yep.
get our we'll get our sea legs back. We'll get our Caracan legs back.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully, it won't be a nightmarish transformation into.
Dude, people did not like that post we did.
I
I thought it was funny. I got another one coming tomorrow or the next day that I think is hilarious.
love it.
I
Stay
told
tuned.
you, I make what I like.
Yep. Absolutely. Well,
All
thank you
right.
guys so much, and we look forward to doing this again.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much, Tim. Thanks
Yeah.
everybody for
Thank
joining,
you
and
guys.
we will see you guys later.
Bye.